Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of things right now. I'm going to introduce using Desmos. So to get here, you simply just Google Desmos. You click on the site that comes up, and then there's a little button that appears that says Start Graphing, and you click it, and then it will bring you here. So there's this little box over here, and you can type in any function you want, and it shows you what it will look like. There's also this little gear thing right here that will actually create a table. It'll give you some values, but let's say you wanted to say, well, what if x was 5? It'll actually tell you that. So it's a wonderful thing to have. I love it. I use it all the time. I suggest you get familiar with it because once you start taking algebra 2, pre-calc, this thing is going to be amazing for you. It will help you quite a bit, and it's a lot easier to use than most of the graphing calculators I've seen. In addition to that, if you go in your cell phone, I have Samsung, so I can use the Play Store. They actually have a Desmos app, but all it really does is bring you to this website. So if you have Apple, I'm sure it's the same thing. So it's just a button you click and it will bring you to the website, or you can just sort of, like I said, you can Google it and it'll bring you here. But in any case, I'm going to use this to explain something that it can seem really complicated, but it's actually very easy. So what I'm going to do is here is what I'm going to call the parent function. This is a parabola. It's a quadratic. It looks like a U shape. You can kind of see what it looks like. So it starts here at the origin at 0, 0. That's what it looks like, okay? So the first manipulation I can do is, let's say I wanted to flip this upside down. What I could do is I could just put a minus in front of it, and look what happens. It flips it upside down. So if you see a function and it's flipped upside down, you usually know that a negative has been used outside. And what that does, if I bring the values up here really quick, so I'm going to go ahead and put the table out here. So here's the rule, right? So you can see I've got 4, 1, 0, 1, 4. If I put a negative in front, look what happens to the numbers. All of the outputs become negative, so it makes all the sense in the world that this parabola is going to just be negatives. So that's the first transformation I wanted to show you. Now let's look at another one. So I'll just go ahead and type in my rule again. Okay, so now it's green, but it's still y is equal to x squared. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to do vertical shift. And what vertical shift is it's going to take our parabola here and it's going to simply just move it up, or it's going to move it down. So if I add, let's say, a plus 3 on here, look what happens. Our vertex shows up here at 0, 3. If I put a 4 here, watch what happens. No surprises, my vertex is now at 0, 4. If I put a negative 4 there instead, you can see the vertex is now at 0, negative 4. So all that really happens here is if you put a number right here, it's going to move the parabola up or down. So I'm going to show you another neat feature of Desmos to illustrate what I just talked about, is you can add any variable to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do plus O. And I'm going to call it O for outside because it's an outside number from this, right? So this little button pops up and it says add a slider. So if you click that, you get a slider like this, and look what happens. It allows you to actually just change the number by using this slider. So what's happening every time is this is being put right here. So you can see when it's a negative number, it's moving it down. When it's a positive number, it's moving up. Desmos also has a little animation feature, whereas if you hit the play like this, it'll actually move it up and down, so you can see it moving up and down. So you can see the effect of that. So that's called vertical shift, and you create the vertical shift by simply just adding or subtracting a number right here. Okay, so now we're going to change this up a bit. We're going to do something different to it. Now I'm going to talk about what's called horizontal shift. So we're going to move our parabola from left to right, back and forth. So instead of moving it up and down, we're going to go left and right. And the way you do that is you just take this part of it, you put the x on the inside, and you square it. Okay, so that's our horizontally shifted one. You can see that it's been moved to the left. Now that's the tricky part about this. I call this the inside rule. It means that I'm putting a number on the inside of the function rather than the outside like I was just doing. If I put it on the inside, what it does is it causes the parabola to move to the left or to the right. But the confusing thing is you can see I put a plus 1 in there, and look, the vertex actually moves to negative 1. So yes, the inside changes when you do this horizontal shift. It has actually the opposite, which is very kind of unintuitive, and it causes kids to make a lot of mistakes. So you might want to make a quick note of that. But like, look, if I make this like a 2, it goes further left. You see what's happening for. And again, I can also add a slider. I'll make this I for inside, and look what happens. So if the number is positive, as I go closer to 10, it's actually moving it to the left. When that number is negative, it's actually moving it to the right. Okay, but that's how you cause horizontal shift on a parabola. In the next video, we'll be looking at absolute value, but what you'll see is that these same things come into play on those.